Hey Larry, Vera here, and today I want to talk about something. Look, I'm being lazy today. My backlights are right here. I didn't even take them out of frame. There's a reason why I think most people fail online, and I want to bring my guitar up for a minute. I started playing music, when I was like 7, 8 years old. But at some point, around 11, 12, maybe 13, it's hard for me to remember, I decided I wanted to play rock and roll music. And one of the first bands that I tried to learn songs from was a band called Led Zeppelin. Some of you probably heard of them. I'm getting pretty old now, some of you may have not heard them. But anyways, I remember learning a riff years and years ago, and you might be familiar with it. It goes... That was Over the Hills and Far Away from Led Zeppelin. And I learned that song and I was really happy. And I went home after school and I would just practice that riff over and over. And I learned it. And then I liked another song. Stay with me, I'm going somewhere with this. And it was this one, you might be familiar with this. That song's Kansas. I'm done with my prop. I practiced Kansas. It was something called Travis Pickett, I think it's called. It was a way you would play with your fingers, and I couldn't figure it out. And I practiced over and over and over and over. Well, you fast forward some time, and at some point in all my hours and hours of practicing, I would learn something, and I would go home and I would just start practicing it. I started to get pretty decent at guitar playing. So, eventually in my life, I decided to get involved with martial arts. Now, I was involved in martial arts when I was really, really young, but I took it more serious when I started hitting around 19 years old, 18 years old. And I would learn a technique, or I would learn parts of a form, and I would go home and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, until I got good at it. Well, I've been marketing on the internet since 2002. And the same thing that I did with music, the same thing that I did with martial arts, I did with marketing. I would learn something, just one little tidbit. For example, in one of the martial arts systems I study, there's a technique called a Pakdar. Just a simple block, a slap block, pow. Right? Punch comes, you block, punch. I would just practice over and over and over, and I would block punch, imaginary punches in the air. I'd have people throw punches at me, and I'd block punches that way, and I would just block punches. And I would get good at it. Well, I applied the same philosophy to marketing. I would take one little aspect, like list building, right? And I would develop an aspect of list building, because list building is a big thing to learn, right? There's a lot to know about list building. And I would just work on, first and foremost, getting I needed to build a list. So how do I build a list? I need lead capture pages. Well, I quickly learned that in order to have a good lead capture page, what makes a good lead capture page is that it's unique and that there's not a lot of copies of it floating around the internet. So I started really getting involved with home businesses in 2005, 2006. Just towards the end of 2006, I was spending a lot of money. And so I quickly started to find out that these crappy lead capture pages I was making worked out better than the lead capture pages that the companies were providing me, or even that the team I was involved with provided me. Just my own unique, quirky little capture pages outperformed every time. And it wasn't because I was a good copywriter. I really just believe it was because it was more unique and I was talking to the heart. My message was a simple message. If you join my business with me, I'll share my experiences and my knowledge with you. I'll call you back on the phone. I'll answer my emails. And that message, I bet you today, still resonates pretty loud with people because, you know, just the other day, one of my business partners was on a phone call with a lady and she joined under a big name person in a company we're in, and that person's never going to get back to her. You know, she's been in the company for like 4 or 5 months now, and she's never once talked to the person that she actually joined because he ain't got time for her. And it's sad, it's a shame, but it happens. Anyways, not to run off on a tangent, we're talking about, you know, moving forward in your business, moving forward in a way that you see results. You know, so I started with a lead capture page. My lead capture page, I realized that it worked because it was unique. So then I was like, well, how do I get more people to open up the emails that I'm sending them? Well, then I just changed one little aspect of that, and that would be the headlines, right? I would try different types of headlines. Sometimes they were totally outrageous, and I remember one day, I opened up an email. I opened up an email that was from this guy named Frank Kern. Some of you guys heard of him, some of you guys may have not. And he did this video, and in the video he talked about a technique called rubbernecking. And you know, maybe some of you are familiar with what rubbernecking is. It's when, you know, you're driving down the road and there's like an accident on the other side of the road, and for no reason at all, everybody decides they're going to slow down and see what happened on the other side of the road, and consequently cars get backed up, and now I'm in a traffic jam that shouldn't even exist. That's sort of what rubbernecking is all about. So in the headline, you want to create that same curiosity of what's going on. So I started experimenting with rubbernecking headlines in my follow-up emails, in my solo ads, and I got a higher open rate because of it. And so as time went on, I kind of subconsciously started using rubbernecking headlines and things like that. But much like music and much like martial arts, it was because I got a piece of information and I took action on that information and I practiced it until I felt that I was very proficient at it before I learned anything new. And how this affects you is like this. You can't just get involved with something, get all of the information, and assume that because you got all the information, you're going to get to it at some point, but at first thing you're going to do is you're going to go out there and try to make money with it. Because it really doesn't work that way. You should take a notebook. And maybe there's a training course you're taking, and that training course is an hour and a half long. Well, you should take the first 10 minutes of that course, and if you learn something in the first 10 minutes, which if you bought a good course, you should learn something the minute you hit play pretty much. You should take that principle, that technique, or that strategy, and you should start automatically applying it right then and there in some way into your business model until you're comfortable with that technique, right? So in an hour and a half long video, it may take you a good week just to get through that so you can micro stop it, take one technique out of it, write that down so you know that there's one technique, and practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it. Just like I did with my guitar, just like what I did with martial arts, and just like I did with marketing, is I took one little element, just this. And I learned how to play it. I would play it over and over and over and over and over again until I was good at it. Marketing is no different than learn how to play an instrument. It's no different than learn how to do martial arts. You simply have to take action on the things that you learn, and you consistently take action on them. That's it. That is the secret recipe to success in your home business. You're going to learn. If you're in a home business and the people you're working with, you aren't learning anything, well then you're working with the wrong people, clearly. Growth only occurs if the knowledge is flowing freely to you, or if you can get your hands on the knowledge and you can learn it yourself. Like I taught myself for the most part how to play guitar. I would, you know, emulate other guitar players. I would read tablature. So more or less I self-taught myself. Same thing with marketing. More or less I taught myself. With martial arts, I couldn't teach myself, right? I needed a teacher. Most marketing you can teach yourself, but at some point you still have to model successful people, because if not, it's going to take you longer to get somewheres, right? It's going to take you longer to get somewheres if you don't have anybody to follow than if you have someone to follow, right? So today's video vlog challenge video is simply kind of a sit down with you and to explain to you that unless you are taking consistent action that's moving you forward every single day, unless you're practicing what you learn every single day, you're never going to get good at it. And friends, the idea, right? The idea of being in a home business is to give yourself more freedom, more time, to live a life that you've always chose or you always dreamt in your mind that you want to live. And to get there is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of sacrifice. Nobody, and I mean nobody, just jumps into something and they're automatically good. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes a focus that's unwavering. So whatever you want, go out there and get it. That's what I got for you today. I'll talk to you soon.